Okay, even though you argue as FIDA that President Kenyatta is flouting the law by not meeting that two-thirds gender principle, this cabinet is entirely going to go through because the vetting committee is made up of entirely Jubilee MPs because NASA has refused to participate. So when they actually do go through that committee, because Jubilee enjoys a majority in the House, they will all go through. Will that be a loss to Kenyans?
It will be a big loss. First, I think it will even be first a loss to the Jubilee government because they made promises to Kenyans to commit to the Constitution and deliver. So they will have flouted that promise, and more so they'll be acting in impunity because it's utter disregard of the Constitution, which is wrong. As FIDA Kenya, we will try and stop any appointment if it does not meet the two-third gender principle. We've done it before. We have like 5 decisions by the court on the two-third gender principle. Tomorrow we are in court again because of Parliament, the same Parliament that is going to vet them. We are saying it's unconstitutional because it has not met the two-third gender rule. But we'll still keep trying because we want to keep by the law. We want to be the ones obeying the law, probably lead by example, and let them know that we'll try and use all the institutional bodies to get it right. But I think really they have the opportunity to just get it politically correct and also to respond to the Kenyans.
Why is it so hard to pass this two-thirds gender principle? The last parliament tried and did not succeed.
I think it's just lack of political will, exactly that. What was so hard about the president just adding one more woman and getting the 7 out of 22 at worst, because that's the minimum that he would have gotten, which is a third of 22 appointed. There are those who also argue a third of 25 when they count the president and the AG, that would be 9. But here we are even saying the minimum 7, you know? Just one more woman, and we can. Let me pick up from where Professor left, where he said you're looking for people with verbose who can push up an agenda. I'm sure there's a woman who can do a better job than that one who has been given a minister for no without portfolio.
Yes.
Interesting term. There are women who are that strong who can do it. So I think it's just utter disregard for our constitution and playing games with the women of this country.
This cabinet is signed, sealed, and delivered. They will go through the voting committee, and then they will all go through because Jubilee has the majority. NASA, for whatever reason, is refusing to participate because they still refuse to recognize President Uhuru Kenyatta. What do you make of that?
Well, I guess this is, you know, Mr. Kenyatta made his bed and he has to lie in it. But I think part of the problem is that you alienate the public from an engaged conversation when the political class and the ruling elite refuse to listen. I think that's the tragedy, because then the country checks off, and nobody's interested in who's. I think that's the apathy that Mr. Kenyatta should guard against. I think a leader should listen to the sentiments of the public. It's about being sensitive. It's about being respectful of the oath of office that you took, and it's about just honoring the fact that you are the people's representative. And to basically say we'll do it anyway and we'll do it anyhow. I understand that this is lame duck, it's legacy time. That's understandable. And what's at play here is this, you know, everybody has worked so hard to get Kenyatta what he really wanted, which is a second term. And he needed to reward them. And he also needed to make sure that he doesn't piss off the people who were in the last cabinet who did not deliver, and therefore give them a safe landing. But I think also what we need to understand is that Uhuru is not disinterested in his own succession. And we should begin to understand what the bigger picture is in terms of how this leads to how he shapes Kenya post him. Because if you look at our country, you know, from Mr. Kenyatta, Jomo, to Moi, to Kibaki, to Uhuru himself, this is all about establishment and legacy. And basically that establishment politics is what gives the political elite the stability that they need. So Kenyatta has to make sure that he hands the baton to somebody who will serve the primary course and kind of the primary agendas around this establishment politics. So let's look at it in that sense, that you've not thrown out these people who, again, everybody says they came from their villages. In addition, you've appointed some new people from those same places. So it's about how do you cement this going forward in terms of legacy politics.
As NASA refuses to engage with this vetting process and appointment of cabinet secretaries because they refuse to recognize President Kenyatta, they say they're going ahead with the swearing in of Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka, but the police say Uhuru Park is closed on Tuesday to any groups, whether it's Nairobi Business Community or NASA. So what happens next?
Nothing. Life will go on. events tomorrow, the day after, and the day after that day will be normal. People will go through their work pattern, some will go somewhere else, and life will continue. Children will go to school, others will be, those who are sick will go to the hospital, and that's the life that will continue. There's nothing so big as to worry people. There's nothing to be concerned about. Because
I'm worried. I'm very worried with that statement. These things would happen, like there would be some form of violence. We've seen it. We've seen NASA saying we are going to do it, and Jubilee government says you're not going to do it. And ultimately violence erupts and women and children die. Some even take advantage to, rape women. We are just from listening to the Elgon issue in Sacho. Some people, that's the time for them to turn against women and children in the community. So I think, I'm still thinking that this country can be sane enough for dialogues wherever it is needed. We really now don't care who gets what at this point because of the number. As it is now, after the post-election violence, there are so many women who've still not even gotten services,
right,
who even their issues have not been responded. So this assumption that things will be fine, life will go on, things are fine, I think we need to come to reality. Violence erupts, women and children are going to suffer. We don't need violence in this country.
Let me respond.
Real quick, sir.
Yeah. Yes, there are some people who have said and made it clear they are going to make this country ungovernable. They've said that not once, but many times. There are people who have a habit of getting what they want by creating chaos. And the word dialogue, which is a camouflage for manufacturing disturbances, is being bandied around. Instead of people obeying the law. You are the one who's been talking about the law here. Mm-hmm. We went to the elections. Years down the line, there were plans, institutions in place, mandated to supervise, to determine, to say what the right thing is. The Supreme Court. That all is followed. And then somebody wakes up and says, I don't want it. There will be no government. The country will not, even a former vice president has the audacity to stand up in public and say that he's somehow been involved in turning the country into a Somalia. You say, what's wrong with this person? And he's supposed to be a leader? So these are not issues that can be taken lightly. I agree with you. Mm-hmm. But I think we should not overplay them.
Okay.
We should not overplay them.
We shouldn't overplay, real quick, Mandarim, as we complete. We shouldn't overplay the disagreement over the swearing in, and if there's any cause for alarm in the country?
I don't believe it's being overplayed. What we're talking about is decades of issues. This is not something that just happened in 2017, and we're realizing it today. And we do have Kenyan people who feel that the law is not to protect them. As soon as you feel there's a group of people who feel disgruntled and disenfranchised, we need to be concerned. Mm-hmm. Because now it's no longer an issue of basic necessary well-being. It's about making someone else feel uncomfortable as they have always felt. And we don't want to get to that situation as a country. So I do not think it's being overplayed. I think the fact that it's ignored is for us to believe that it's being overplayed. It's almost a facade of what's actually happening in our country. And there are a lot of people who do want to see the swearing in. And that is a fact of the matter. And that is something that is happening within our country. And to tell them that their beliefs are irrelevant is not in our place to do so.
And finally, Dr. Witi.
So here's what I'm going to say. That the country is not on a path of stability, and the move on, let's have peace, let's pursue development, those things are in many ways an attempt to just gloss over the real substantive social, political, economic issues in the country. And I don't know at what point in time we're going to sit down and talk about these things, because I think the elite are running out of rope. We are the chief architects of ethnic politics in this country because it benefits us the most. The academic, the business, and the political elite. Because when we play that, we play to the gallery. And we keep hosting the poor Kenyans who, it doesn't matter what their tribe is, has got the wrong end, the short end of the stick since independence. It doesn't matter whether they come from Gatundu or they come from Sakwa, Bondo. These guys, life for them will never change. And we have failed to address those equity and equality issues.
All right.
We play on the justice part, but again, the way that the political structure is set up, this country will burst on a class warfare, and it will be unstoppable because we keep hiding behind ethnicity and we refuse to deal with the real issues about the rot and the hurting that happens in the lives of ordinary people.
All right. I want to leave it there. Did you want to respond? I think if we started, we will not end this discussion.
I almost agree with you.
Okay, fantastic. It's a great place to end it. Professor Munene, Nerima, and Teresa, and Dr. Alex Owiti, thank you all so much for coming in this evening. Hopefully in the years, in the weeks, in the months ahead, hopefully in the years ahead, we'll have more time. We should make it a regular.